From hidden Hamilton references to secret cameos and West Side Story Easter eggs, Lin-Manuel Miranda's In the Heights is filled with sizzling details that'll make you love it even more. Yippee-ki-yay movie lovers, I'm Jan, and in this video I'm revealing over 50 amazing things you missed and fun facts about the musical. When Kevin Rosario rings Stanford about his daughter's tuition fees, the cheery music he hears when he's on hold is a Muzak version of You'll Be Back, King George III's breakup song to the American colonists in Hamilton.
Hi, Mr. Rosario?
Yes, I'm here.
The tune is more than just a fun Easter egg for Hamil fans though, because it fits the moment perfectly, as Kevin is trying to get his daughter back to university after she's decided to drop out, and the song foreshadows the fact that eventually Nina chooses to go back to Stanford. Lin-Manuel Miranda makes a fun appearance as a piraguero who has an intense rivalry with an ice cream seller, which is where the next Hamilton connection comes in, as the Mr. Softee truck driver is played by Christopher Jackson, who starred as George Washington in Miranda's revolutionary musical. And before that, Jackson also starred in the stage version of In the Heights, originating the role of Benny, who's played by Corey Hawkins in the film. Casting Jackson and Miranda as rival street vendors in the adaptation is an amusing in-joke about their real-life close friendship and their many creative collaborations, from the Heights and Hamilton musicals to the improv hip-hop group Freestyle Love Supreme and the Disney musical Moana, where Jackson provided the singing voice for her father. By the way, make sure you stick around till the very end of the movie's credits, as there's an extra fun little scene where the piraguero gets his own back on the rival who outsold him earlier in the film, when Mr. Softee's truck breaks down. Cue the piragua guy taking full advantage of the heat and indulging in a bit of surge pricing now his competition's out of the game. The spectacular 96,000 song is one of the highlights of the movie, and as director John M. Chu says, it isn't just an I want song for one character, but for the whole neighbourhood. The song's number has several layers of significance in the story. First of all, Miranda says he chose 96,000 as a prize amount because although it'd be enough to make a person's life a little easier, it wouldn't be enough to completely change things. Miranda also says that for him personally, the number 96 has a subconscious wealth line connotation, because as a child growing up in New York City, he noticed the difference between the price of living on 94th Street where he went to school versus 200th Street where he lived, which resulted in him viewing 96th Street, the northern border of the Upper West and East Sides, as a kind of economic dividing line, something which is also referenced in the opening song.
I've never been north of 96th Street.
And there may even be a reference to 96,000 in Hamilton, which was Miranda's next Broadway show after In the Heights. In the song Right Hand Man, the line 32,000 troops in New York Harbor repeats 3 times, and of course 32,000 times 3 equals 96,000. A detail that only those familiar with the stage version of 96,000 may have noticed is the lyric change when Benny fantasizes about what he'd do if he's the lotto winner. In the movie, Benny says he'll play golf with Tiger Woods, whereas in the original song, Benny brags he'd be so rich that he'd have Donald Trump as his caddy. In an interview with Variety, Miranda explained that when he originally wrote In the Heights, he viewed Trump as an avatar for the Monopoly man, just a famous rich person. But now Times made a fool of that lyric, so they changed it. The movie's version of the song is an incredible dance extravaganza that was filmed at New York's Highbridge Pool, and shooting the sequence was an insanely difficult feat to pull off, with the cast and dancers having to perform in freezing cold water while thunderstorms kept interrupting filming. In fact, the weather was so bad that the sky and pool had to be colour corrected in post-production, as in the film it's supposed to be one of the hottest days of the year. The aerial shots of Vanessa with an ensemble of synchronized swimmers moving in geometric patterns channel Busby Berkeley's renowned choreography from classic musicals like Million Dollar Mermaid. However, achieving the perfect overhead shots proved a lot harder than initially anticipated. Firstly, drone filming is prohibited in New York, and a crane had to be carefully constructed to avoid damaging tunnels beneath the pool. Then, whenever the swimmers around Vanessa moved, the ripples and splashes caused the tube she floated on to drift off. In the end, they decided to film Vanessa separately and digitally splice her footage in with the other swimmers. Even then, Vanessa's pool ring kept moving around during filming, until John Chu decided to wade into the water himself and hold it steady for the shot. Another interesting detail is that although the movie uses lots of bright colour to fit the story's celebratory feel, for this scene Vanessa was dressed in a black bikini to help her stand out in a sea of colour. There are shades of West Side Story in When the Sun Goes Down, Benny and Nina's love song about their soon-to-be long-distance relationship, which they sing on a fire escape, reminiscent of Tony and Maria's love duet Tonight, whose own roots are in the iconic balcony scene from Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. Interestingly, some of Miranda's own favourite childhood memories are walking through his neighbourhood and looking up at the fire escapes, and he got his own West Side fire escape moment in the new movie during the Carnaval song. And according to John Chu, filming that scene led to an especially touching moment when the whole cast chanted Miranda's name in gratitude at what he'd created. Funnily enough, during location shoots for In the Heights in 2019, Steven Spielberg was mere blocks away filming his new take on West Side Story, and Miranda even snuck over to say hello. And actually, Miranda has some history with West Side Story himself, having directed the musical at high school, translated some of Sondheim's lyrics into Spanish for the show's Broadway revival in 2009, and Sondheim's influence is found in both In the Heights as well as Hamilton. Miranda played the lead part of Usnavi when the show opened off-Broadway in 2007, and originally he was going to reprise that role for the musical's big screen adaptation, when the movie rights were picked up by Universal after the show won Best Musical among other awards at the Tonys in 2008. But after the screen version fell into development hell, bouncing around various backers before Warner Brothers won the rights in a bidding war 10 years later, Miranda felt he was too old to play the part anymore. As Usnavi sings about emigrating from the Dominican Republic, he looks wistfully at the map of the Caribbean on the wall of his bodega. To make this map unique and give it some character, the movie's production designer Nelson Coates decorated it with items Usnavi sells in the store. There are Pepperidge Farm goldfish crackers to represent the fish in the sea, as well as lids from cans, perhaps a reference to the tins of condensed milk Abuela Claudia recommends he use as a milk substitute. The Dominican Republic itself is made up of various pieces of coloured tiles in a form that resembles the country's flag, which ties in nicely with the opening song's chorus line, "In the heights I hang my flag up on display." And there was a cute, fun moment you might have missed when Vanessa first walks into the store and Benny and Sunny are trying to get Usnavi to work up the courage to ask her out. Notice the little rose that Benny gives to Sunny, which he later places on the coffee cup that Usnavi's about to give her. Usnavi isn't having any of it though and tosses the flower away. Speaking to The Hollywood Reporter, Miranda said the movie's production designer recreated an In the Heights doodle that Miranda did when he was in college and placed it on the Piragüeros cart. It's only on screen for a second during the main movie, but I managed to spot it right here in this blink and you'll miss it moment, and it gets a smidge more screen time in the post-credits scene. In a change from the Broadway production, Nina's mother doesn't appear in the movie. However, there's a little Easter egg to actress Priscilla Lopez, who played her on stage, via the photo of her next to the TV during Nina's childhood flashback. Another nice detail from that scene of Nina as a child is the rainbow on the top she's wearing when her father gives her a new computer. As a symbol of Nina's restored hope for the future, she also wears a top with a very similar rainbow towards the end of the movie, when she goes to the protest with Sunny and then explains to her father how she can use her education at Stanford to help her community and those who are undocumented. By the way, Jimmy Smits, who plays Nina's father in the film, has a previous connection with In the Heights. When he first saw the musical off-Broadway, he was so blown away that he told Miranda that if they needed anything, he was there for them, and that offer led to Smits voicing the national commercial for the musical's move to Broadway. During Nina's song Breathe, as she's welcomed back by the community, one of the original Broadway ensemble cast members, Doreen Montalvo, has a cameo. She sadly passed away in 2020, and there's a tribute to her with the mural Doreen para siempre in the movie's credits. Montalvo was the first actress to audition for the musical. She's also the voice of the bolero singer on the scratch record that plays as Usnavi is planning to leave New York and return to the Dominican Republic. Miranda said that he played the Piragüero as a love letter to his grandfather. So those glasses you see around the Piragua guy's neck actually belonged to Miranda's abuelo. And he also carried his granddad's cowboy novels with him during filming. And I noticed him reading one of those books at the start of his song. Speaking of grandparents, the character Abuela Claudia was based on Miranda's real-life grandmother, and she's played by the same actress who originated the role on stage, Olga Meredith. Seth Stewart, who was part of the ensemble in Hamilton and played Graffiti Pete during the off-Broadway and Broadway runs of In the Heights, pops up in a cameo in the club as a bartender. And of course we can't forget the movie's lead Anthony Ramos, who before now is best known for his double roles of John Laurens and Hamilton's son. Miranda's mum and dad also get a cameo during the song Breathe. As Nina walks through her block, Luis Miranda and Dr. Luz Towns Miranda pop up to greet her return.
Welcome home.
It feels appropriate that his parents should appear during one of Nina's songs, as Miranda has said that spiritually he's much closer to the character of Nina than Usnavi, who he played on stage. Miranda's wife, Vanessa Nadal, gets a cameo at the end too in the water hydrant scene. Director John Chu keeps the family theme going as well, with his mum Ruth getting a secret shout out in the ghost sign for Ruth's bridal hidden beneath the sign for Daniela's salon. And I spotted another Chu family hat tip on Vanessa's rental application, where the real estate agency Willow, Amelia & Co. is named after Chu's daughter, whose name was inspired by one of his favourite films growing up, the 1980s fantasy movie Willow. And there's even more tributes to Chu's family in the winning lottery numbers. His wife's birthday is the 5th month of the year. Chu's daughter was born in July 2016, that's 7/16. And 33 is Chu's favourite number. As for number 26, that's the date his second child was born in 2019, and Chu decided to name him after the movie, calling him Jonathan Heights Chu. A few more cameos in the film include Chiara Alegria Hudes, who wrote the book for In the Heights, and Javier Munoz, who has played Usnavi and Hamilton on stage. And according to The Hollywood Reporter, Anthony Ramos' mother and sister also have cameos in the movie too. And to discover all the things you might have missed in Hamilton as well as secret characters, tap here to watch my full musicals playlist. So what did you think of In the Heights, and did you notice any other cool details in the movie? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, then I really appreciate a thumbs up and a share. Tap left for my next musical video, or tap right for something else you're sure to like. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Yippee-ki-yay, movie lovers!